Hello and welcome to Season 2 of the Dive into the ACOTAR series. It is Season 2 because it is Book 2. This took me 11 weeks to finish. I did not like this book really at all. So, when it comes to Lyle, that point, we don't have to wait very long. Now, I think I laughed that I'm on page 2, and I have to give a little favor. Who's our world? Me, not mine. On page 2, well, the first 2 pages of this book, before we get to chapter 1, before we get to point 1, Feyre has a nightmare about being Amarantha, and Amarantha calls her herself is muddied in her brain. She doesn't really know kind of who's who at this point. She calls her a mortal, virtual monster. Lyle is evil. So I'm going to give her a Lyle point because she is calling herself in this dreamy Lyle. So, we have on page 6, and I'm going to put this out. On page 6, Feyre is thinking that the eye on tattoo, the branding that we see who's listening, interesting. And on page 8, we very clearly get a restriction of movements coming up. On page 15, we have our first mean point. We hate to see it, we hate to see it. So, basically, what's happening here? We are having a anti-Nesta reunion here, Ianthe, and Feyre are talking, and the comment is along the lines of, like, how people are very political and not in a good way, and everyone is vying for power and dominance, and she says, my sister would let me fit right in. Actually, do we have a life point? I think we have a life point. Life point. Why? Because we saw in book 1, she was surrounded in the human politics, human nobility, all this kind of stuff, and she wasn't fitting right in. And in fact, she was the eyesore. She had to take herself out of the social interactions. Like, that is actually a lie. That is legitimately a lie. And I will say at this point, I do think that she has forgotten who her sisters are. I'll say that. Let's move on to page 18. This is something that I'm like, Ianthe, you will mess up with doing this. So basically, if you don't know, Feyre and Tamlin are getting married, but also Rhys did not come to that yet, right? So they were planning the wedding. And Ianthe is saying, you have to choose your words very carefully now that you're half Fae. People might use that against you. And then they start talking about what colors that Feyre wants to have at a wedding, and she says not red. And then she says any color you want. And then the next line, and this is during the conversation of you have to be careful what you want. And I don't know, were y'all shocked? Were you shocked when at the wedding, those red flowers, you said any color that you wanted? Because, like, Ianthe is trying to teach you a lesson that Feyre's gonna talk. And that is unfortunately something that she did learn for book 1, which is words are very important. And I can understand why Ianthe wanted to teach her that lesson. Interesting. Yeah, I think that'd be a very interesting lesson to actually learn instead of making the same mistake, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. Feyre also does like Ianthe. Ianthe is the friend of Tamlin, or used to be the friend of Tamlin, so she's like cool with her. She's like, oh my gosh, it wasn't for her, like, I'm also going to point out, both Tamlin and Feyre, they're not doing good. They are not doing good, literally at all. So, yeah, and that's also why the restricted movement is explained, because it is seen as like he is too afraid to let her go anywhere. It seems like because of him not being able to protect one of the mountain, but like we are going to move aside to page 24. And this is something that Tamlin, people get mad at him for, and I see no reason to be mad at him. So they were talking about what title she's going to have as his wife. Consort, of course. What else would it be if you're married? But whatever. And she's like, people, she doesn't want to call her lady. She doesn't want this. But then she gets upset when they're like, well, you would not be the high lady. There's no such thing as a high lady. But even that, it's just like, was Tamlin wrong? Organically, there's no such thing as a high lady that we have seen so far. That the magic chooses. Interesting. Like, I almost kind of feel like she's saying she doesn't want a title that she truly does. And I'm like, well, are you related to any of the high lords? Why would you then be a high lady? But let's move on. I feel that man, and I'm sure that you can also feel that man too. Meaning, like, I mean, why are you not even saying that? In page 26, I'm not going to give her any point for this, I could have, but she's so confident in Rhys's skills. So we have Rhys, the idea that Rhys is tracking her through the eye. We have her being so overly confident in a man she has barely met, a man that has only tormented her for months. And she's so confident, And I'm like, what are you doing? Let's go to the next main point. Oh my gosh, page 37, I saw this and I went, why are you getting married? Why are you getting married? On page 37, she says that she didn't bother to learn the names of her fiance's best friends. Now, maybe it's not like, that's not me, where it's like, you don't know the names of your significant other's friends. So you don't want to have, like, you don't want to have any, I don't want to say society, but you don't want to have any community. And why would you be the high lady of Spring Court if you have no ties? And I mean that meaning you have no community in where you are. Like, make that make sense. I truly can't. I'm getting overvocal about it. So I'm gonna be a little bit mean. Let me just say that up front. So mean point there. Another mean point I'm gonna immediately get on page 41. Feyre's self-concept is in the trash, and I mean that being kind to trash. Like, actually no. I mean no, because I think that she honestly probably trash is better. So that's being mean to trash with how much she thinks of herself so bad. Like, Girly Pop needs, obviously there, but needs to actually have some version of herself that a partner does not put on her and say, this is your personality, and go, oh, thank you so much. And if you think that's funny, okay, sure. That's also kind of what she's doing with Tamlin. She isn't letting him choose her personality. Because she doesn't pay anymore. She basically just does what he wants. She stays in the house, she doesn't do anything. Now, you're not like, well, she can't leave the house. Yes, she cannot leave the house. Okay, and when she goes inside the house, she's basically doing nothing. Which, honestly, he's kind of breaking the whole promise of, like, you can go anywhere you want with him. But that is kind of the plot right now. But unfortunately, her self-concept is so in the gutter. And like, every time I can hear something like that, I'm like, actually no, at this point, Feyre would probably see that but the inanimate object somehow in a better light because it is a function. Now, I'm not saying that these inanimate objects in this world are better. I'm saying, having read her self-concept, I think that is, I think that's probably not an outrageous thing to think that in her mind, an inanimate object is better than she is. And so that's what she needs her concept. Also, page 41, she calls herself a Lyle again, interesting. We are now only on chapter 5. We are actually only on chapter 5 and we already have 2 Lyle. I mean, that's kind of wild. Okay, so we are going to move to the point of the story in which failed wedding, Rhys is here, Rhys lies to her and says that you're not a prisoner. But Cheyenne, she's not. Yes, she is. Can she leave? And in this book, something that is very frustrating is when people say, well, she's not a prisoner. And I say, but can she leave? Can she go somewhere else? Will she be stopped? And so I'm gonna put that there. Also, he does like say, like, I don't swear on you. I only like do that sometimes, but like, I don't convey lines. Page 51, she lies to herself, says she's a prisoner. That's not true. That's not true. Actually, she can't leave. At this point, we don't know. Does she know how to leave? Can she get home? Can she go anywhere else in that quick? Can she do something independent of Rhys without Rhys getting her permission to do it? So that is a lie. We do have some explanation of how the seasonal courts work with thanks to magic. And basically, they might like, so he's saying that they might be powerful, but they don't control the sun's path, so the strength or anything like that. And I'm like, interesting, why are you describing himself as powerful when you're supposed to be powerful? I don't think a High Lord would say that. And here is when on page 56, in which he's like, the bond is a bond between us like a bridge, and that's why we can go into each other's minds. And he forces Paul to go on a shield. So what does this mean? Holding force to shield, again on page 56. So she hold the activity that she has to do when she is with him. And I'm with him, but in the night way, we are now told, okay, you are now going to do this activity. You have to do this activity. So she's a prisoner. She cannot leave, and she has to do what he wants her to do. So she has no freedom of movement within the space, so she can't leave space. On page 59, we have Moy and the chats. So at this point, it's a little bit confusing. We need to like figure out what we are in the story. We'll start with Night Boy, and Moy comes in, and I had to call him a friend. Well, not really, like, I had to be like, okay, is this a lie? Is Moy calling her out for a lie? And Feyre says, it's nice to meet you. And Moy says, Lyle. And I went, is this technically a lie? And I really had to look up the definition of niceness. And I went, I think it's not a lie, even if you're in a situation you don't want to be in, and you don't want to be around a person in particular. I don't think it counts as a lie to say it's nice to meet you. So I'm going to count that as a lie point. I think it's very interesting that we have the Night Court trying to have the idea of hoping Lyle. Which is she Lyle? Yes. Let's see if she's Lyle. How do you think that she is, though? And on page 60, this is the point in which it is described as Moy is my cousin in the loosest definition. But we were raised together. She is her only surviving family. What about her parents? Interesting. So we're going to take Moy, and we're going to pin in, is Moy the High Lady, or could that family be actually the High Lord, or connected to it? Because we don't have sufficient evidence in saying he is or he's not the High Lord. We only have feelings, and we don't have a lot of evidence. True. And so I want to have like a little boy of just saying who it could be. So we have him saying she is his cousin. What does it mean that is in the loosest definition? I mean, is that true? Is that true? Is it in the loosest definition of what a cousin is? What do we say? Is she your cousin or is she not? We need to know for magic purposes. Page am I on? Page 60. Okay. So we're gonna get another main point, page 64. Very easy. We have her calling him a pig. And if you're like, well, he was acting like a pig, I'm not saying, and I think maybe a little bit of a reminder from season 1, just because I'm saying someone is acting mean or someone is lying does not mean I'm saying how dare they act mean, how dare they lie. Because again, if you look at book 1, sometimes you realize that is what I would have done, that's just so many people would do, and I'm not saying that's bad. But I am saying that's what counting lies and that's a lie. So if you're like, well, he's a pig, and was like, she didn't get a lie point, she didn't get a point. On page 35, she didn't get a lie point. Well, no, so I'm gonna call her Lyle. And that's what he reads. And if I do it, okay, it's a good thing. It's a good thing that I did not give the inner circle like mean points. Because then his core title would be like nothing but attachment, Cheyenne. This is nothing but no. And if I thought that book 1 had something attached in it, but basically, this one is vacation. And Feyre says that under the mountain, okay, they were saying on who is Feyre's enemy. And Reese says that he's not one enemy. And he, she is saying that everyone, including, okay, no, he's trying to convince her that he is not Feyre's enemy. And saying, like, oh, you basically manipulated into thinking that. And she's like, well, what you did on the mountain makes me kind of believe them. And he also lied. Did you tell your friends what I did to you on the mountain? Full stop. Why are we asking if she told her friends that you assaulted her for 3 months on the mountain right in front of them? Oh, do you mean when you twisted her bone after she said, no, I don't need to heal me, and so you've, forced her into it in the garden? Is it that? Or is it when you could just fix the, paint that was on her, and instead you took that as an opportunity to put your hands on her, like all over her? Like, was it that? Okay, maybe it was when he was like, no more choice. Maybe it was that. Or maybe it was when he saved her, and he cheated in the second, trial, but one could argue that he did that for your own selfish reason. Was it that? It could have been that. That's the only one thing that would make sense with you should read. So, but like, I'm gonna see precisely trying to manipulate her, which in this chapter, oh my gosh, I'm literally seeing her call him a mean wall. 4 times. It's fine. It's fine. Also, she tries to manipulate her into being like, but boy, why is it like letting you do things like that because you have a it's fine. At this point, in the chapter, I'm just gonna say it, that's what she is. He has already admitted that the bargain makes him able to go into her mind. He says it's a 2-way streak. How she's not able to actually go into his mind and see anything. You might be like, well, sometimes they won't be able to. I'm saying without him saying, without him letting her, he doesn't. Just saying that. Let's move on. On page 73, Reese says, oh, yeah, let's show the High Lady. And it's like, Reese, we are not talking about if a High Lord gives you that. We're talking about like actual High Ladies. But he doesn't actually say what a High Lady is. He's just trying to cause something. He's just trying to be a on page 66, Feyre says that she assaulted Tamlin. Nothing came of it. They kind of just ignored it. On where are we? Okay, on page 75, so we did go back a little bit, but that is okay. We have the first time in which Arma says many times. I believe that if you have to say you are the High Lord or the most powerful High Lord so many times, I think it's Game of Thrones quill, which is anyone has to say they're the king, so king, but it's that many times. And so that is the vibes I'm getting. It's like, I don't believe you. You're saying it so much that I do not believe you. Because why aren't you confident? But that's not real evidence. That is something I'm pointing out. The vibes are not there. On page 85, that was Tamlin Lucian. Lucian says that if she truly does have the power of the High Lords, the other High Lords will go for it. So I mentioned this just because it's the power of the High Lords. She has a little tiny bit of it. And Tamlin does not want her to train. Now, I agree with him, but I also think that you can't just not train her though. And I'm trying to mean, I mean that in the sense that it's like, she is a spy. Do we really want to tell Reese that we're training her? When we can't trust him? Like, and I also have to keep in mind that Reese is the person who did kill his family. Like, his boy killed his family. Like, that is actually an event that we've known since book 1. So this is an enemy court that we harassed them all of book 1. Going into her minds, humiliating her, all of her unmounted. That was all Reese. So why at this point would we believe that Reese has any good intentions? So I can understand that, and I'm like, you also kind of have to control it, or other High Lords are going to figure it out, unfortunately. So I'm not saying, like, I agree with him that she should be trained because kind of lazy to say. I'm saying that as she is a spy, and I do also agree with restricting her movement to a certain extent because she is a spy. And listen, you take the signs off of roads and highways, so that way a different force does not use them, and you go to maps, you know the land. So it's like, I understand it in that perspective, and I also understand if they tell her that is happening, you understand finding out. And from book 1, we don't know from that specific character would he decide she's not useful. Like, I understand that feel, and I understand that's why he's doing it. On page 99, Faye lies and says that she's wonderful, and she in fact is not. So on page 100, we get the Tamlin panic attack, and I think that the reason why this was included is because we have Faye assaulting him, basically comes something that's what happens when someone that does not have a lot of power freaks out compared to someone who does have a lot of power freaking out. Not saying that it was okay, I'm saying it was a panic attack. So that's what I want to say about the panic attack on page 100, because it's not really relevant to this deep dive, and I'm trying to keep on track, 113. So Reese speaking a minute later, he literally throws a line of, doesn't he care about you? And just like, you know she's a spy, you told, like, everyone in the Feyre seems to understand the fact that she is a spy, and that's not fair, she was told she was a spy, she just needed to put 2 and 2 together. Feyre at this point unfortunately has 2 brain cells fighting for 4th place, and isn't it usually, I know what the thing usually is. You can understand, like, yeah, that was intentional, to mess that one up. She on page 114, she gives 2 mean comments. On page 114, on 115 she does lie, again to Taylor when she's back from talking to Reese, in which she says she's fine. I'm gonna also point out here, they never start visiting each other's beds, so to speak, until she leaves. So, she would use a conversation in which it's like, oh no, like, a high boy might want to take her, and like, they would have awful children together, so we have that potential threat, and on top of that, it's like, okay, they'll probably thinking this with Reese, because Nightboy is not their ally, literally at all. So, we're going to skip to page 140, because on page 140 we have something happen, in which Feyre is no longer Tamlin. Tamlin was so book 1. Book 2, because of Valaris. And this is a city that we want to talk about, because it's one of the questions. Is Aemon and Valaris there willingly? Can they leave? But on page 140 we get to Valaris, the city of Starlight. AKA, the good city. And Night Vale's the bad city. And then Wood Camps, evil city. Honestly, some people might just and say that the Night Vale is evil city, but what I'm saying is, the time of the Winning Worlds, I think that now, I'm also going to point out, I don't think that those are accurate descriptors of what the city's like. And if you're like, then why do you describe it? You really just, this is simply how these characters are taking a nuanced city and boiling it up. We have the good city. The city of Dream Wars is, oh my gosh, and then you have, they're all bad. They're all horrendous, bad things happen to the city. This is how they think of it. So, because of that, that is how I'm starting it. We have the good city, it's not really good, it's just a city. And then we have the bad city. And it's just like, okay, how much questions is there now? Part 2. We already get half hour into this. So at this point we have no more Tamlin. On page 44, we learn that nobody knows about Valaris. It is a secret city. So tell me how page 146 is known for the city is known for the music, or is literally known for something really else. Quick, how is it known? How is the city known for the artist corner? Quick, how's the city that no one knows about known for something? It can't happen. So he's just trying to, like, what he's actually trying to do is make the city seem amazing to all. This is a good city, you want to be in this city, this is a good city. Everything you want to be is not in this one city, because this one city is a perfect city. You might also then realize me saying this. Oh wait, is this trying to be like indoctrination, or some kind of way to convince her that something is not how she thinks? Yeah. So, on page 147, this is one Feyre, if we can even say that she was a reliable narrator, is no longer a reliable narrator as she once was. On page 147, she is really mad, because these people were not allowed. They did nothing to help. Rightfully so, people are allowed to have emotions, and Feyre is allowed to be upset. Non-guys, so. And she wants to vandalize, which, I mean, not her right to do, but you know, her emotions are valid. And he gets into her mind, and stops her from doing anything, and says that people are blameless. And all of the anger, she says, that easily my rage vanished, as if it had slipped around a ladder, it had suddenly climbed inside me, and slattered on the pale stone street. Yes, of course, they were blameless. But I didn't feel like thinking more about it. So, let's be honest, I don't know, Reese just went to her mind and changed her mind. Changed her emotions, changed her to use something, boom, gone, and then had the beautiful implant. You love to see with emotion in it. The beautiful implant, let's not think about this anymore. There's like beautiful, I say it's beautiful in the sense of, that's how you know if you did it well. And I know you can't really know, but, like, in vampire stuff, the emotions used, like vampire diaries, the more someone think the originals, Cammy, Soilos. In that, once she started thinking and leaving something else, and saying, like, I am going to figure this out, she did, and made everything, like, you can't let them know that something is wrong. And, because you get people like Cammy in that season, or that show, that undoes the emotion, because he's going to figure it out. So, yeah, so she's definitely not a reliable narrator anymore, because he goes into her mind and completely changes things around. On page 148, we get the hierarchy. We don't get the full hierarchy until later, but we learn that Amren, this wasn't that he does not portray nicely. Amren does not get a cut. Amren is probably, from everyone, especially at this point, not perceived nice in any way, shape, or form. In fact, the opposite. But we get a hierarchy, Amren's number 2. And if you're trying to start a hierarchy, here's a rank. If you have a number 1 and a number 2, and then a circle, it's a hierarchy. There's 1, So, page 148, we get that. On page 149, we get, you circles, crap, why lord? You don't have to say that, no, you're not. Page 150, we get Tamani. Looks like he is. Basically, someone who can go into other people's minds. And I don't like that she uses I'm going to say unwritten slave. So someone can go into Damani can basically mess things up someone, is what she's saying. So we have to keep that in mind. That was on page 150, and it's very important, because if we had a mind mental, claiming he is a high lord, we have to keep in mind that is he a high lord, and he can help people to do it. Are these people here willingly or not? With, again, the mind mental. On page 151, favorite is meme. So we'll have that meme point right there. But the problem is, she's making a point. She is making a point against Reese. She is challenging him, and then she says cheap shot, childish. But inside I had become a little, I become like distant. Oh my gosh, a cheap shot and childish. But inside I had become like a distancy, relentlessly, blah 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 blah. And it's just like, interesting that we have hoping to find it and immediately backtracking and being like, why did I do that? Also, no, you won't. You're being mean to yourself. You're being mean to yourself. I'm giving you a mean point, not because you're being mean to me, as you should, but because you're being mean to yourself. This self-concept, if you believe that you should be treated like a doormat, you will be accepting treatment that you are a doormat. That goes for everyone. Why people say you have to have a decent self-concept is if you don't, you accept behavior from someone because you think you deserve that low, but you think you deserve on some level that self-concept. Your self-concept is so low that you believe on some level you deserve that thing to happen to you, and it's okay that it happened to you. Meaning, if someone's being disrespectful to you, and if you tell someone else, oh no, that's not why would you say that, why would you say that? But if you accept that, you believe that you deserve that because your self-concept is it does. House of Worms, we have 10,000 steps. Thank you so much on page 152. On 165, favorite is basically having an interview on channel. We want to siphons are not acting like how they should be, but at this point, I don't know if they are relevant. They might be a little bit in the sense of maybe Reese is stealing the magic and that's how he's becoming a High Lord. That's why he's most powerful, is because, in people's minds, he's most powerful because he's stealing everyone else's. And maybe he's stealing the actual High Lord that's like trapped somewhere. Page 166 is super important. We learn not to use the word high fae. And that Cassian really has a problem when someone says it, because that implies that we elevate us. Illyrians are not high fae. And this is when we get the bad city is so bad because they're all horrible racists. Even though what it does sound like is, which I'm so sound which is like, okay, so you're saying that in this channel, that you don't accept any political opposition, and if anyone stands up against you, you will them. And if you think that they might, you send them to the bad city, So, okay, so you're saying that you should probably be unrelated fix, something like that, and instead what you're doing is you're not allowing anyone to have opposing views of you. You eliminate all political adversaries. And anyone that you expect you think might be political adversary, you can go into minds, so anyone that you think is a political adversary, you will kill. And anyone that you think might actually be a political adversary, you'll send to the bad city. Well, you resign to the good city because that's the way we have casualties. Interesting. Also, we learn that any memories that anyone in the Court of Nightmares had of Alaris and of the high-ups, will just destroy the temple where the mutations held everyone's on the bed. Because he said, I can only save one city, and I chose this interesting with this city has been for 5,000 years. This city has been for 5,000 years, I did choose to say that, no one knew about magic, didn't really protect it. Interesting. I think he made the wrong decision. We also learn as we will he's a spy master, asterisk, on page 58, we also learn the shadows on page 158, we learn the spy master. Why would you say that? But interesting. Why would you, this is how James Bond's a wolf spy, because everyone knows he's a spy. Why would you tell someone that you're interesting? And then we have Cassian, who's a general. Interesting, I guess on page 185, we do get 2 Lyle points added. What an amazing thing. Oh, sorry, we don't get 2 lying points. We have 2 Lyle points. So, I think this is a dream, and in it, and we have the console lying treacherous human, and then she has a lying point. So 2 Lyle, not lying points, you know what I'm saying, I knew it. And then, on page 198, we have something that he's actually learning, and someone online was trying to convince me that this is actually not learning, and I'm like, it's so sad that, you read that, that's what you came to. It's like, well, yeah, that's what the world said. Which is, right, so there I'm gonna remember the way. So, as I'm tracking the cereal, we'll go into the bone cardinal. That was like after all this, meaning, it's just like, why are we going to the bone cardinal instead of the cereal? Because you don't also believe what he's saying, like, interesting. So, we want the prison is a law unto itself, it's an island that maybe 8 points. I think it's important because if we are looking at highlights, I have an idea of something that I cannot say yet, because I'm technically don't. I still want to spoil before we get there. So, just keep in mind, I chose what is a highlight, all this stuff, specifically so we can get to specific points that I'm very curious about. Here we are, it's on page 181. So, Cassian is the best warrior, but he describes that if anything would happen to his army, sorry. Morning is who he would call if the armies failed, and Cassian and Azrael are both dead. Okay. And then if something happens to Morning, he would send Cameron. And just be like, take me instead. Now, I have like, why is the learning? Because I don't think it's the right way. So, you have to think this right. This is how we solve it, which, we're gonna figure out if this is just Reese or if this is something else. Reese is saying that both people that he would send in is his greatest warrior and his spy master, and he does have a second job, I will say, but I don't say what it is. Some of you know what his second job is. He will send them in. He will send high power in his army, meaning high power, instead of having a diplomatic approach. With one. The truth tell. Alleged. I mean, I don't believe that's a power, but the alleged one. Right, so, first you send high power with your battles. With your armies, with your general, with your spy master, Ash is something else. He is something else. He is something else, and he can, I think, probably goes in this as well. So, keep in mind, spies, yeah, sure, but that's not how they would probably send him. High power, then diplomatic approach. If that failed, then he'll set the monster loose, and everyone would die. And he was asked to die first. High power, soft power, nuclear option. That is what you think. That is very alarming. Because you have to keep in mind which each person is representing in this thing. And I cannot say why at this point, as well is definitely not soft power. Yes, he does have some influence with the spying, but not really. Just because you have spies does not mean. Because some people think spy master, so that's like beautiful, right? And it's like, if you're good, and like that whole little council, it's like, wait, if you're good. The thing is, we have no evidence that he is. We don't. Now, let's move on to page 202. This is after they get the whole explanation and void dump. And I'm not going to mention it because it's so void dump. It's so void dump. And it doesn't matter y'all. But besides this, it's after Reese basically is upset and doesn't answer because he, the Don Carlo, wants to say what, not him. And he literally leaves off having one question and then stops and he's like, oh, fine, I can do one. Go to Soil if you want to answer questions. Actually, he would even answer them. Basically, she didn't bother to thank the Don Carlo. Excuse me. That's rude. And not to bother doing it at all. Rapid fire, let's just mean points. Page 205. Theta is mean. Because she says Cassian's surprisingly quiet. And you know, how does that mean? And I'm like, that's a serious thing to try to I took that a little bit mean. I took that a little bit mean. You know, I completely mean normal. So, the 209 is truly where things actually mean. So, she's saying that maybe Post Sisters would they say they need a home to talk to the Mortal Queens because the Mortal said they need to do good for the Mortal Queen. And some guy in fairy, some Marlowish, and fairy, or Prithian has. And basically, she's offering up, not home, and I will stand on this. The home that they have in the Mortal Winter is not theirs. It's not. Because she knows what's with her. She stayed there for like 2 weeks, maybe 3, and then she went to go with Tamlin. This home was given to a whole family by Tamlin. After saying you're not allowed to go back home, and then you do go back home, and then you come. That is not her home. It's what Sisters and Dads. It's not home. She has a right to it, and she's saying, well, use the talk to the Mortal Queens, my sisters are almost there. That's not the main point. The main point goes to they may not be happy about it, but I will make a raid and that's to do it. I didn't have the nerve to ask Reese if he could simply voice my family to agree to help us if they refuse. I'm giving him 2 mean points. One, for being rude about it, that it's not your home, and you're being like, we'll do my sisters. No, I'll make them do it. And then a second one of, you will have someone compel your sisters. Yeah, so this is not the same person who wanted to take the sisters and flee. You know, like, that is actually not the case anymore. And we're not even done yet, because she then, page 112, calls him a cruel, conniving asshole to Reese. And you know what? She's not wrong. I give her a 5 point. I give her a mean point. On page 234, we have something happen. She is trapped inside Reese's mind, and he doesn't let her out. So at this point, now we cannot leave anything, because she actually legitimately is trapped in his mind, because he closes the walls of Alcohol. Let me see if I can get the page specifically. Rule 1, Reese told me, his eyes blazing with rage at that memory. Don't go into someone's mind unless you hold the way open. Its mind might leave the minds right for you, then shut you inside, turn you into a willing slave. And this is after the shields behind both fell, and so she's trapped in because at no point did she ever out. So from this point on, page 240 on, she is trapped in his mind and she can't leave. On that rude point, on page 136, she's just basically being mean and people are boring. And I'm like, really pick me. You're so upset with humans having women talking about pseudos, and now you're also upset with humans celebrating a holiday. She's honestly a miserable person. That is on page 243. What was the one? On page 246, she was talking badly about the clothing that women in the Mortal Man wear, which that's not lying, to be so honest. She is mocking what human women wear to a fairy. She is mocking what a human fairy, she's mocking what a human fairy, what mortals wear. She is no better than the other fairies that were mocking humans. She is a mean-spirited person. Also, at this point, the men are hanging out in Tropices. We get some backstory on Mori and find out she's super powerful, and we don't like her family because they want to sell her off. And at this point, we have, I think, more trying to communicate that being a woman is not good, no matter what side you're on, fairy or human, because, like, no, you're still gonna get sold off, you're still gonna, like, get married and all that stuff, but they were just like, how dare they? Also, Cassian is Mori's hero. Then we go back home to the Borderlands. Page 146. I'm making a mean point because she is assuming that her sisters are mean because they're not showing any love or no belief. No, and it's like, you're a fairy from another boy. No more. Why? I wouldn't let you in. Excuse me, I wouldn't let you in. Oh, you look like my sister? You look like my sister, but I know you are a fairy. So what on my face looks dumb? What am I entitled to you makes you think that I'm so gullible? What, you want me to give you my full name too? And then I'll deal with this. So you definitely would not act in that kind of way. But that's what I'm saying, I would not leave my home. That's not my home. That's not me. That's not knowing who makes stories. They are not me because they don't want you in their home. I'm getting family on page 246 for being like, my sisters. No, like, and you wouldn't know. And if you wouldn't know. Now, page 247, I am giving, Feyre a light point because she says that they have nowhere to go without someone wanting to hunt her and do bad things to her. And it's just like, well, and his sister's home is also not a safe place. You have to be very careful. And I think those things could still happen to you. So I'm just going to give you a light point in this. And I'm going to be honest, in this conversation, I think some people would want to give Nesta a mean point. And I decided in this conversation, I was like, listen. I don't think it's mean to tell someone that you don't want to do something. And state facts and reasons that are, to them, they don't want to hear, so perceiving as mean. If you say no, you're not mean. If you say no, you're not mean. So, I know a few times in which I did have to, like, basically be like, hey, do you think that's something mean? And you just told me it's how you say it. And at this point, I was not listening to the audiobook. 11 weeks. Somehow I was listening to the audio, so I don't know if also on time. Oh my gosh. Even then, I started tapping again. So, some ways, yes, we can definitely see that Nesta could be potentially, but ultimately, she's not saying anything mean. She's, in this chapter, saying what they don't want to hear, which I don't find that mean. I'm gonna give Feyre, page 248, a rude mean point because she says, no, we can't do it another day, we have to stay. Maybe now. And like, that's what consider it. That's what my staff. Also, that puts you in more danger, I feel, because you are mutually now. That also puts your sisters in so much danger. I'm gonna point out, this whole thing makes those sisters puts them in so much danger. And not just fairies, but because men entering their home after staff leaves, in this time period, which whenever that is, because they're not good. Page 247. I'm gonna point out real quick, during this conversation, she's less mean about Tamlin, and less mean overall. Obviously she's so mean, but as Reese comes back, it all comes back, and she's just mean again. Now, I almost gave Nesta a mean point by saying, but he's old, but the man is old, he'll die soon enough. We decide it's how you say it. If you always say facts, it's not mean. But what Feyre says, hopefully, which I think that's mean if you think that you're really wishing upon people. Yeah, I think that's a little bit mean. Make sure I'm not skipping anything. Also, pages 208 to 221, well, I think we both want to keep track of where we are. Page 252, we had a lie, in which she is saying that she gave, the house could give a few good heals, safe heals until then, as it was not safe because you have to be putting this home in Little Sand in active danger. So, we do have that. I'm going to give her also 2 mean points on the same page, because at this point they're meeting these fairy men, and she says, a main show is not fake, rude. You just spend all the time. And Nesta to go is not accept them, rude. What are you talking about? That is so rude. Okay, let's just leave dinner. And this, we don't need Nesta mean points. If you don't want me to Nesta mean points, you're wrong. You're wrong. Now, what I do think happened here is I think Reese got into Cassian's head, and Reese did not like what Nesta had to say because I'm lost. What was a lie? It is not rude. Well, actually, it is rude, but it's not uncommon. Okay, so, first off, we have Feyre not wanting to eat the food because it's human food and it tastes bad to her now. And, mean point before I go for that because you couldn't really. That's kind of rude. The other one is when Nesta said, so you can't eat normal food anymore, or are you too good for it? Okay. There could have been a way that you said that was not rude, but, so right now, rude. And then, Feyre decides to be rude and says, I can eat, drink, and fight as well as I did before, even better. Who's she? Because that's not who your sister's around you. Again, why did we let her through the door? I don't know. And Reese is just like, the food is better on Chrissy, and like, you can come and, you know, have the food, and not just yours. Baby food? You want me to have baby food? No. I have a little interest in edible setting foot in my hands, so I'll have to take a vote on it. Okay, a little rude. I can totally see that. However, Cassian, Cassian about drama with Reese the night before, and now Reese is, you know, upset with her. And it's like, why are you upset with my guy? Now you're my guy now. Why are you upset that she refused to take fairy food when her sister, the young little sister, refused to eat and had to be magically restrained until she did eat in book 1 because she didn't want the fairy food? And then was just told about how her sister, by you, was potentially forced to drink wine. Actually, I don't think that what happened on that. It was really told to them. Just, no. Nesta again being a little bit rude, right? Now I'm gonna point out, they agree that they can just start over, right? And Nesta nearly hisses, fine. I think, well, yes, it's understandable that you're so upset with Cassian, he is being rude. Unfortunately, we don't have room travel for him, and at this point, he's acting out of character for what we got in the whole time. Don't worry, we won't go back to the whole time, but she's being the least misogynistic man now. Don't worry, he's gonna be more misogynistic anyways. And make sure you will be saying when I said least misogynistic, not saying he's not misogynistic. And this is when you know that, saying High Fae is very problematic. You look like High Fae, and Nesta cut in, but you're not. I'm gonna give her a mean point because Cassian just like that basically implies that Ella's a mess up. So you know what, I'll give her that. I wasn't gonna give Feyre a mean point every single time that she did it in her mind, but listen, I thought I would run out of tabs, and I did run out of tabs with so many things, and I went, okay, so we're not going to, but keep that in mind, we're not like, supposed to be doing that. Okay, at this point, Dinnell's all din, and even though they agreed to start over, Reese is trying to, like, talk crap in Nesta's own home, and Feyre initially continues it, and says she's her own creature. You did find out that sometimes mean does not encapsulate what it is, but you have things that are like, what? That is more than mean, and then Ella's like, okay, barely. Yeah, that's actually how I describe it, and I should have thought about that a little bit more, but, Reese tries to continue, this anti-Nesta. It doesn't go well, and she has a colleague page on page 160, not on page 260, and on page 261, remember that Reese said that he doesn't really go into her mind as a violation? He's like, oh, I don't know, celebrating her birthday? How would you know she celebrated her birthday, not people modeling what she was doing when she was doing it? Interesting. Page 274 to 276, we are in the mind of Reese. The idol has been, caught, and this is only going the second job. Actually, is a torture. He tortures people. So when I said that it's not his spies that he would be sending, it's his ability to inflict punishment. And he's doing it for an hour. And he's just standing there, and I'm like, dog, what are you doing? You are in high notes, able and easily able to go into book 1, someone's mind and get information. You could have done. And you wanna know what happens? He ends up doing that. He ends up going into the idol's mind, performing everything that about him. So it really does not matter. On page 277, we have a lie, because Feyre says that she is no one's pet. That is a lie. That's a lie on page 279. We had a mean point because she was so much High Fae. And you know what? If I had to give Nesta a mean point because Cassian's saying that, I'm gonna give at least Feyre a mean point and get to remind the rest of the book she's gonna do it. Where are we? Page 280. Okay. Let's continue on to another mean point on 286. And which is truly diabolical. She's like, well, why did you just rearrange this entire city time you want it? And he's like, why the hell would I change the one thing about, why would I change one thing about this place? Like, and honestly, everyone agrees with me, so I agree with him. Why are you going to displace everyone in the city because you don't like the layout of something? That does not make sense. It's actually diabolical. And something that Reese would do. I'm shocked. Okay, so 287, we get more Night Court. This is the time when Night Court was a court of nightmares and ruled from Penn City long ago, but ancient High Lords had a different vision, and rather than allowing the world to see its territory vulnerable at any kind of change, he sealed the portals and staged a coup, eliminating the wolves, seals, and predators, building Polaris for dreamers, and establishing peace. Why did you do that to your whole point? Why did you do that to your whole point? Why did you do that to your whole point? Why is one city getting peace but everyone else not getting peace? Why did you do that to your whole point? Also, that sounds like violent. So, violent was not a coup? Okay, and an ancient long ago, how long ago was this? A person who can change memories, potentially can change time. When was this? Why did you do this, Reese? Who did this? And that also makes me think his family is not the original High Lords. Thank you very much. On page 287, we get the false, real thing that he is not a High Lord. Or his family is not. Because we have a coup, the isolation. We have the city of Nightmares used to be, and now it's no longer the capital city. And building Polaris for the Dreamers. And he is also referred to as Dreamer. Oh, he's the Dreamer. Okay, we tried to for why didn't you for the one city? Think about how horrible he was. Too old. And she calls him up for that. And then she says that she's lying because, oh, well, we see this one good thing. And I'm just like, no, here's the one deal. So you can lie for it because you lied to yourself. By saying you lied. On page 296, we have another lie. She says that we both knew it was a lie when she said she was fine. At least we'll go well with it. On 307, we have another lying incident. In which she says, I'm Reese's new pet. Because they have to go to the court at night now. No. Because they have to go to some point. And I'm like, interesting. Why is it that everyone else is treated like a respectable person who's not sexualized and demean? But they have power and they can actually not be sexualized. But Feyre, no, not all. Never all. So basically, she's his pet. Which, I thought she wasn't anyone's pet. I'm so confused. She lies and she says, I left my own free will, I said, and no one is my asshole. Well, Jesus. You really shot me, so sorry. And now on page 115. On page 118, we have a lie. And hoping maybe I will go and go and be with Harcourt, and then she then calls herself a liar. And on page 319, she says, no one's an asshole. You can't. Which one is it? So you have a line point, of course, naturally has one word. On page 323, she is mean about whole sisters. Are we shocked? She lied on page 244, that he's not trying to do so, and just like, okay, my guy, be in Lululand. And that's what we're going to leave off on page 34, we're going to leave off the beginning of chapter 44 on page 327.